This is an NP208 out of an 85 Dodge driveline. Was going through a rebuild or refresh process, changing out seals and bearings, and came across a little issue, which I'll get into, but I wanted to just demonstrate a couple things. First thing I want to talk about is just the shifter lever or shifter select here. So you'll notice that it's got a little detent pin on this side and a detent pin on this side. The detent pin on, I guess we'll call it the top side here, there's a little detent pin in there, and that's connected to this one. This one is a vacuum switch, but you can change this out. I'm going to change it out to a GM style that I can wire a 4x4 light to the dash on. So when that's connecting, that little light would come on. And then on this side, there's a detent ball, and you've got all these slots. So currently, and I've just marked my transfer case because I was going through it here. Okay, so currently it's in 4 low. So as I shift that selector lever, so if I go into neutral, it just moves into the next slot. And you can see on the one side that detent pin is now in a gap, which is deselecting your switch, or on a Chev application, it would take the light off on the dash. Okay, and then so I'll just make one more shift. Okay, so this is in 4 high, and then on to 2 high. So as that's turning, the shift forks will ride on, there's one that will ride onto the rail here that moves the planetary and annulus case up and down, or the ring gear up and down. And then on top, there is a shift rail fork that will ride on this rail, causing to move your synchro up and down, or back and forth, I guess. So I'm going to put this back together and then show you the problem that I was having. I found that it's best to put it into 4 low, the very last position, so that this hole at the bottom is as far down to the base as it can be. Don't forget your bearing and your race, or thrust washer, I should say. Okay. So this is the, now on mine, it came out of a Dodge, and everything all the literature I've read and things I've seen have told me that this might be a Ford ring gear, because it's a 2-piece. So if you can see here, it's got your snap ring. You could actually take this annulus web out. And this one here has a plastic ring where your fork would ride on. And this particular fork does not have plastic due to that. It just slides in and sits there. So I've got this all assembled. I had it all apart and cleaned it up, and it's rotating fine. There was no significant wear, we'll say, on any of the teeth to cause me to have to replace it. And then on the bottom, if you can see, this bottom ring is your annulus lock ring. So when you're locking it into 4 into 4 low, this goes right down and locks into the teeth, and it's held in by a bunch of bolts that are put in through to the backside. It's best to put the ring gear and the planetary assembly in with this fork. You can't really do it any other way. I found a good way to do it is just to hold it from the inside like this, and you can just lower it in. There we go. All right, and then if you lift it up just a touch, you can use your fingers to slide that shift fork into the holes, and it goes down and into place. All right. Okay, so that's how that goes in. So the problem that I was having was, I'm gonna put this shift rail in. So there's a piece that goes into at the bottom, the tapered part goes to the top. So the problem that I was having is when I'm in neutral, so we're in neutral right now. So when I'm in neutral and I spin this, you hear that noise? That grinding noise. So what's happening there is the The ring gear is rubbing on the annulus stop at the bottom, like the catch at the bottom. But what I noticed was when I moved, there's a little bit of play here. So when I push on this rod and move it up and turn it, that noise goes completely away. But when I let go and it sinks back down, we're grabbing. So I don't at this time think that it's an incompatibility issue with this maybe being a Ford ring gear in a Dodge T-case. I think that's fine. But you can see once the case lid goes back on top and the transfer case is laid on its side, then that noise might actually just never be apparent. You might never ever hear it because of the weight and how things are situated. But right now it's leaning because of the way I'm working on it, and it's giving me that noise, which I freaked out about when I was first putting it back together. So that caused me to open everything back up and reinvestigate things. But that's really all that I wanted to show, was just what that noise was. So that would be a noise you're hearing in neutral. And the case was doing that prior to disassembly, but I didn't know the history of this case. It wasn't a run on a vehicle I had. But yeah, it's the angle of this shaft is preventing the gear from ring and planetary assembly from being lifted up enough and off of the annulus lock at the bottom.